The teams were graded on. The Chiefs were given a D+ or worse on 7 categories, including finishing last in the league in both training staff and ownership. Wow, interesting. As they continue to create a dynasty, Louis Riddick is here to help us make sense of it. Lou, thank you for being with us live from the Combine in Indianapolis. Lou, is the Chiefs' bad rapport a big deal, or is this not a big deal at all?
Look, on the surface, it would seem like it's not a big deal considering all the success that they have had, especially since Andy Reid took over and since Patrick Mahomes became the starter. But it is a big deal. It's a big deal because it's something that is talked about. It's talked about by the players down there. It's talked about by the players to other players who are prospective free agents who are coming into Kansas City or potentially are considering coming to Kansas City. And that's the kind of thing you don't want to have to always be dealing with. You don't have to always be fighting with and having to take under consideration when you're trying to recruit prospective free agents coming to your place. You don't want to have to constantly say, hey, look, we understand that we may be falling short in terms of this survey in all these critical areas, but we do have Patrick Mahomes, we do have Andy Reid, we do have, a winning tradition here. You don't want to have to always, have to sell yourself or oversell yourself to make up for some of the things that, quite honestly, just aren't up to par. And I can tell you this. The Kansas City Chiefs practiced at the Las Vegas Raiders facility in preparation for the Super Bowl. And when they walked into that facility, their eyes almost popped out of their head when they looked around and they were like, wait a minute, this is where they live? This is where they practice? These are the accommodations that they're subjected to every day, and we're subjected to high school level facilities, high school level locker rooms, the kind of stuff that we have to deal with, and we're going for our 3rd Super Bowl on our 4th try? Wait a second. Now, see, that's the kind of thing, that's the kind of reputation that starts to spread to other prospective free agents in particular. And look, Brett Veach has done a fantastic job of getting bargain free agents to come in, or free agents on team-friendly contracts, and play their rear ends off and play critical roles because of the allure of playing for Andy Reid and playing with Patrick Mahomes. But eventually that stuff will start wearing out if you don't start taking care of the players in particular from A to Z. It's something that will become a draining factor.
Hearing Louis kind of describe it and talk about it, it obviously is a bad thing. I guess for me, Louis and Stephen A. Mali, I'm shocked. I would have never correlated that it being so poor with Kansas City. I mean, they've won 3 Super Bowls in 5 years. You never hear anything about it. At least I haven't. I haven't heard anything both, from the treetops and from the low level of the players of this is something that is an issue for us or whatnot. And maybe it's one of those things, everyone has that saying in football, like winning cures all. I've always thought of it as winning covers all. Like maybe since they've won, ever since Andy and Patrick have gotten together and they've had this 6-year stretch, that it's covered up some of those things. And it has to be a bad thing. And I think Louis brings up so many good points of eventually you can't use we have Patrick as the selling point or we win as the selling point and there's going to be more that's needed. I'm just surprised and shocked that it's so bad when I haven't heard anything about it and they won, because usually that creeps into your ability to win. At some point, that daily lack of support or necessity creeps into your desire to win or your desire to go and do your job.
You know what's interesting about that, Dan, Stephen, I don't mean to jump in. I just want to say something like that speaks to the kind of ship that Andy runs. And it speaks to Patrick's leadership that they never talk about this stuff on the outside. For them, it's always just about business, the next opponent. For Patrick, it's about, I got to throw the ball better so Marquez Valdez-Scantling can catch it better. I got to take something off. It's always about taking care of one another and not worrying about all the stuff that's going on around them that they know needs to be better. Think about it like this. Look, Andy Reid's going to sign a new contract, okay, that's going to put him amongst the highest paid in the NFL. He wasn't even close to that coming into this. He should have already been that guy. And they had to fight tooth and nail in order to get him there. See, those are the kind of things that eventually, like we're saying, if those two are ever not there together, what does that mean going forward in terms of players being happy with playing there?
Which quarterback should go number 1 in this year's draft? Is it Caleb?
Look, as I have it right now, it is Caleb. But I've been very, very vocal about the fact that Jaden Daniels is on the come right now as far as how I feel about him being able to go ahead and cement that #1 overall selection too and be worthy of it because of his play. Look, a lot of this is going to really be dependent upon just how this week goes as far as when all the principal parties from each team get a chance to sit down in some of these interviews here and really try to get to know within that 15 minutes a little bit more about these individuals, which can really kind of sway you from one to the other when the on-the-field grades are very similar. And I think depending upon who you talk to, some people would say, look, for as dynamic as Caleb is and as worthy as he is of being considered the #1 overall pick, you look at Jaden Daniels' tape. Have you looked at it lately? Have you seen this guy stretch the field, spread the ball around, be able to create off-platform, throw the football from different arm angles? Have you seen how electric he is? It's going to be, to me, what could really close this gap and make it a toss-up is how this week goes, how these interviews go, how these guys come off, how these teams start to feel about what kind of people these guys are and how they will then integrate themselves into the, individual structures of the football teams. Because that's really, look, Ryan Poles has said himself, he is very confident in his ability to actually evaluate the players from an athletic and from a football playing standpoint. What scares him and what scares most general managers is getting the person right, and getting the person right as it relates to, will he be the right person for us? So I think that's really where these two guys, that's really where the debate is going to be. Because, look, Jaden Daniels, I don't care what you say, this guy was the best quarterback in the country this year. Last year, obviously, it was Caleb. And Caleb didn't have as good of a year this year. I think they are very, very close, and I think that gap is shrinking by the day, especially if reports come out of here that Jaden Daniels had a heck of a week in terms of impressing people from a makeup standpoint.
Yeah, well said. Lewis, I'm at the point where I would take Jaden Daniels #1. I would. 3 reasons why. #1, when I'm looking at, because nowadays, let me start here actually. This is the hardest draft class for me. Lewis, you've been doing it a lot longer, just to watch and evaluate. I think the #1 reason why is college coaches either make it so easy for these quarterbacks or so difficult. I watch some of these offensive schemes and I'm like, I have no idea what the quarterback should be able to do here. So it makes it very difficult because there's not a lot that transfers over. You don't see a lot of throws that you're going to go, yep, that's what's going to be needed on Sunday Night Football at 3rd and 10 in 4th quarter to go win the football game. So that's the challenge in and of itself. I think the 3 reasons why is #1, I think Jaden has the best ball placement versus man coverage. We know you're going to see a ton of man coverage in the NFL. Guys are not going to be open. You have to throw the ball away from defenders. I think #2, when it comes to the explosive plays downfield, we all know they matter in the NFL. What does it actually look like? So often we have guys that, hey, you had 3 touchdowns for 60-plus yards, but you didn't really do anything. It just is a box score stat. So, what do the explosive plays look like? And then 3, the pocket piece. CJ was so impressive last year with that. Joe Burrow, Lamar's growth in it, Josh Allen, Patrick. And so you're trying to find some of those traits in these guys' tape. And I think Jaden just excels in all 3 of those. And I've said this, and I know the weight of the words. When I watch him throw, and I know he was your #1 guy last year, and when I just watched the throwing motion, the actual throwing motion of Jaden Daniels, I think C.J. Stroud. It's a tight left arm onto his chest. It's a very tight, small C, and it's quick and sudden. So when I look at him, I go, it's not a knock on Caleb. It's just the wow impressiveness of Jaden, and when you watch all of his snaps.
All right, Essay, which quarterback from the 21 class has been dealt the worst hand?
Zach Wilson. And I have to say this to you. This might be the easiest question I've ever been asked in the history of First Take.
Wow.
Because let me tell you something right now. You look at his QBR, 28-38, 28-38, and 30, his first 3 years in the NFL. He's obviously had some very unfortunate and bad moments, and we get all of that. Nathaniel Hackett is awful. Just awful. And he's so bad, we all know that he is in New Jersey because of Aaron Rodgers. Nathaniel Hackett is so bad, they should consider arresting Aaron Rodgers and incarcerating him for a day before, just for putting that man in that position and subjecting Zach Wilson for abuse. Zach Wilson literally could file for charges against Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, that's how bad he is.
What are you talking about?
That's how the man's awful. The man's he's never should have been a head coach in Denver. Never should have been a head coach in Denver. And then when you look at the Jets, ask anybody covering the NFL, they say it don't get much worse offensively in terms of archaic, in terms of being rudimentary, in terms of being as pedestrian as the New York Jets. Nathaniel Hackett has no business in that position. The only reason he's there is because Aaron Rodgers wanted him there for Aaron Rodgers. And I don't have a problem with that for Aaron Rodgers because he's so great. The guy that has you comfortable, that you are cool with, I have no problem with it. But Nathaniel Hackett with anybody else hasn't worked. I'm sorry. It's just that, listen, I'm not, I defer to the experts.
You said the guy should be arrested.
I think that I really, really believe that Zach Wilson is in a position to file charges.
Sure.
Because of the level of abuse he's been subjected to as the quarterback for the Jets.
I mean,
I don't think anybody can deny that. He needs to leave.
I've kind of spoke out about that. Mac Jones as well. I mean, Mac Jones, he had a defensive coordinator.
Absolutely.
And he had the worst skill outside of maybe the Titans.
But it didn't start that way. And last year with Bill O'Brien, it wasn't that way. That's why I didn't pick Mac Jones.
But he also had the worst skill group in the AFC, outside of, again, maybe Tennessee.
Right.
So you're talking about a guy that in his second year had a defensive coordinator as coach, and in that 2-year span.
In his second year.
Right.
But not the weapons. But that's not the same as having weapons and not knowing anything to do with it because the guidance that you're receiving is so
both
poor.
have been freaking terrible as far as situations.
Okay. All right.
Who would you think on more for their futures?
I'm just saying, that with Garrett Wilson
Who
and
would you
Brees Hall
rather
and those
have,
other.
Zach Wilson or Mac Jones for the future?
I have no clue. I'm not qualified. I have no clue. I know this
Justin
much.
Fields?
Huh?
Oh,
Justin
gosh,
Fields.
Justin Fields, yeah.
Yeah. I know this much. What Zach Wilson has been subjected to is criminal. And you can literally, I'm telling you, he should think about press charges. I'm serious. That's how bad they were, man. That's how bad they were offensively.
Your situation matters. It goes to show your people don't realize it's not just talent. The situation matters where you get drafted.
Some people ain't meant to be head coaches. Some people ain't meant to be coordinators. You can get a job. But it needs to be. You ever saw that movie with the Office Space from years ago?
Yeah, obviously a great movie.
When they went to, go like this, we're going to take your desk, we're going to put it way back there. You're like, no. That's how they should treat Nathaniel Hackett. We're going to take your office, and, we're going to put it in the basement.
So what does Aaron see in him then? We're going to put it in the
basement. You know what I'm saying?
Why is Aaron so into him then? Because Aaron's obviously cerebral and knows the game.
This is somewhat an assumption by me, but you read things, and I think Aaron, one, has a very close relationship with the person, like the families and whatnot.
Yes.
And then two, Aaron likes to control things, and I think and kind of have the.
And he's earned it.
Yeah, and
he's earned
right.
it.
Both on the field and off
Rodgers.
the field. And I think on the field, this allows Aaron to have complete autonomy at the line of scrimmage and getting in and out of certain plays and the creativity behind what Aaron does post-snap. I think he likes that.
And clearly, Aaron Rodgers likes Tamir. You know what I'm saying? He spoke to Grant Hill, loves Tamir. I'm so into you. That's what he feels about Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, that has something to do with it. That has to be it. I mean, it can't be anything else. I don't cover the NFL like that, okay? I talk about it on television. I'm a reporter. I listen to the experts, and I listen to the people within those locker rooms and the people in the league that has coached against this man. I have not heard flattering things about Nathaniel Hackett and the abuse that Zach Wilson was subjected to. He has justification to file criminal charges. He really does. They need to change that up, seriously, unless Aaron Rodgers is in the lineup, of course.
All right.